Many a meeting has taken place in my office. Some of you have been there dealing with conflict and forgiveness. What are the stories? The business partner who was dishonest, the spouse who was betrayed, the friend who was deceitful, the parent who wasn't invited to their child's wedding, the bitter divorce. I've seen it all. When people come in to talk, they come from both sides of the conflict, those who have been aggrieved and those who have caused the pain. The one who's been wrong is dealing with pain, anger, resentment. They're trying to work through the issues, whether to give that person another chance or whether it is time to terminate the relationship. On the other hand, I also get the person who caused the pain. Sometimes they are trying to figure out what they did wrong. Sometimes they know. Most of the time, they're just trying to rectify what they did. And often, by the way, in my office, I'm the one that people come to determine whether a second chance is given, whether a second chance is deserved. I'm not a therapist, so I tell them the best course of action is to go to a therapist. But mostly they've come to me because they're interested in a religious perspective about the issue that they're facing, and they want to understand how would their religious tradition respond. Now, I imagine that all of you believe in second chances. Yeah? Well, at least for yourself. All right? Perhaps not for other people, but for yourself, oh yes, absolutely second chances. On Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about the second chances that we have now in the post-pandemic world and how we can't go back to what was. Today, I want to speak more specifically about second chances in our personal lives. And what does that mean? Now, how do we know that Judaism believes in giving second chances? What does the Torah teach us about forgiveness and second chances? The God of the Torah is often portrayed as a vengeful God. You know that God, right? Who doesn't seem to have much patience for people, right? Who will punish in the moment that an infraction has taken place. But in truth, there's usually plenty of warning, opportunity to repent. But I want to look at three stories that are the strongest cases about second chances in the Torah. I want you to understand that I believe that these major stories are providing a framework for second chances. The first example takes place in the opening chapters of the Torah, Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. You know this story. God tells Adam that he can't eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. If he does, what's going to happen? He's going to die. He's going to die. Now, I won't take the time to tell the story. You know the story. A serpent comes in there. There's mischief. They both eat of the tree, Adam and Eve. And yet, do they die? No. What's their punishment? They're expelled from the Garden of Eden. Now, some may consider this a fresh start. But the second chance, and here's what I want to tell you, comes with consequences. God says, because you ate of the tree when I told you not to, cursed will be the ground because of you. By the sweat of your brow shall you get bread to eat. You see, in the garden, all the food is plentiful. You just walked around and ate whatever you wanted to. But now, outside the garden, Adam and Eve were going to have to work the ground for their food. They were going to have to work hard. You see, second chances come with consequences. What do we learn from this story? First, we have free will and we make mistakes. We all do, don't we? Second of all, God believes in second chances. Third, those second chances come with a price. Our actions have consequences. God does not say to Adam and Eve, oh, by the way, eating the tree was okay. I was not really serious. Stay in the garden. That would be a whole different story that we would be reading in the Torah. Fourth, we have to work harder to gain back trust. The second story of the second chances is the story of Noah and the flood. Now, in Rosh Hashanah, I spoke at length about this story. Hopefully you were here. If not, you can find it on our website. Just go to templealiyah.org/sermons. Shay, I don't even know if that's right. Humanity gets a second chance, but it comes with a new reality. As I mentioned on Rosh Hashanah, what happens after the flood? 7 laws are given to humanity. They must observe those new laws in order to have a social structure. They can't go back to the way it was, and so there are consequences to the actions of humanity. Now, I didn't talk about one part specifically about that story on Rosh Hashanah. It's the part about when Noah sends out that second dove and it comes back with the olive branch. I mentioned that this meant that the world was habitable for birds, but not for humans on Rosh Hashanah. But that olive branch, hasn't that come to symbolize so much in our world? What is that olive branch about? As Noah and his family were sequestered on the ark, that was their first sign of hope. The first sign that something was going to be different, that they had been forgiven, and that the world would go on, that their lives would go on. That olive branch has become the symbol of peace. We know that. I want you to think about the expression, to extend an olive branch. It's a powerful image. Right? It implies that you're making a demonstration of wanting to change the status quo. In the world of conflict, the extension of the olive branch is an action that demonstrates a desire for change. It takes courage to extend that olive branch, doesn't it, sometimes? Not easy. Here's one of my questions for you. Are there people in your life that you need to extend an olive branch to? The third example of a second chance given by God occurs at Mount Sinai. God offers the Israelites a covenant. Observe my commandments and I'll make of you a great nation. You know that part of the covenant. The Israelites experienced the greatest theophany of all time. As the Torah describes it, they are at Mount Sinai. They feel God's presence. They hear God. Moses goes up the mountain and over the course of 40 days hears about the laws from God. He's presented 2 tablets by God. God says, here, take them. God writes on those tablets the laws. As Moses is about to head down the mountain, God, who knows what's going on down below, says, I just want to tell you something. Those Israelites of yours, they're worshiping a golden calf. Says, maybe we should destroy them. And Moses says, no, that's not how we handle humanity. God does overreact a lot in the Torah, by the way. And it often takes humans to navigate with God, to rethink what is right. But in the end, God is swayed. So after 40 days, right, Moses is coming down the mountain. And just 40 days earlier, the Israelites had heard about the forbidden idolatry. As Moses comes down those with the tablets, all of a sudden seeing the idolatry, seeing them dancing around the golden calf is too much. And so he throws those tablets down and they shatter. Without the tablets, there's no covenant with God. Levites and a plague are responsible for killing the actual Israelites who were engaged in the idolatry. But what about the Israelites? Did they deserve a second chance? God is willing to give them that second chance. And so God tells Moses to head up to Mount Sinai again. This time, the process is different. If you know the story, this time God says, Moses, this time, you're going to have to schlep those tablets up yourself. Well, schlep isn't exactly in the Torah, but it's, you know what it's, right? Moses has to carry those tablets up to the top, and God writes on the tablets the same way he did before. At the end of 40 days, he's coming down with that second set of tablets. What's the meaning of Moses carrying up those tablets? Why do you have to do that? Was he being punished? Did Moses do anything? He didn't do anything wrong at that moment. He's defending his people. He's the one who's gone up the mountain. He's the one who came down. What is that about him having to carry the tablets up? The rabbis understand this change as indicating that people must be true partners with God in the new covenant. You see, in the second chance, they now have to buy in completely, and they have to recognize that their actions are responsible. They should not have stood by as the other Israelites were worshiping the idol. They should not stand by idly as people are doing wrong. They need to be engaged and to stand up for what is right. That's part of their new understanding. That's why God gives them the second chance. Second chance is required that we look at a relationship differently. The other party must be convinced that we have changed. Isn't that what it takes to get a second chance? Only then is there a possibility of that second chance to be successful. I have seen lots of second chances given that did not work. I've seen lots of people give third and fourth and fifth chances, and maybe it's some of you who have done that. But unless someone really wants to change, no amount of chances is going to matter. There has to be a change in how we come, but the second chances are so important. Moses is up that mountain for another 40 days. He comes down with the second set of tablets. It represents a second chance. And what day does Moses come down that mountain? What is the date according to rabbinic tradition? It is today, Yom Kippur. That's the day he came down. You see, according to our tradition, from the very beginning of our history, Yom Kippur is a day of second chances. Isn't that something? We sit here as the beneficiaries of that tradition, that second chances are possible. And there's two types of second chances that we can focus on during these high holy days. The first deals with people we've wronged or who have wronged us. The second is the one in which we give ourselves that second chance. And that is between us and God. Giving a second chance is not easy. There's often much pain. One party must be willing to step forward and initiate the process. What's fascinating about second chances is the fact that it can be the aggrieved party who actually makes that initiation. Sometimes it's a person who's been hurt who will extend that olive branch and try to reconcile, try to initiate a process, because they know for some people, stepping forward and taking a risk of a second chance is not easy. My experience has been that second chance relationships are never the same as before, by the way. It takes time. You have to rebuild that relationship. The beginning of the Kol Nidre service, for those of you who got here in time, not saying who, but I asked for forgiveness from the congregation, which is my tradition. I asked forgiveness from all of you. Because like you, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. And in the process, I disappoint. I even hurt people. I know that when congregants give me a second chance, that I need to work harder to rebuild that relationship. Second type of second chances that we need to give are to ourselves. Aren't we often harder on ourselves than other people? When we strike our chest during the next 24 hours, we're dealing with our own personal shortcomings that lead us to be less than what we can be. That's why we're striking our chest. Disappointment in ourselves can be debilitating. You know that. We feel unworthy of the accolades that people give us. We feel unworthy of success. We feel unworthy of love. Giving ourselves a second chance means that we are sincere about change, that we deserve another chance, that we can change. Only then can we move forward. Today's a day of second chances, everybody. I want you to hold that, and I want you to act on it. God forgave the Israelites of the sin of the golden calf. We're here today because of that second chance. Tomorrow afternoon, we're going to read the story of Jonah, who's transformed while inside that large fish, and as a result, he's given a second chance. Today is a day of second chances. On this day, we feel the pain of others, or we feel our own pain. That's what's supposed to move us to change. We feel the pain of how we've disappointed others and ourselves. We feel all of this. And then we know then that there's a chance for a second chance. May we all reach out for those second chances, and may we grant them